Hello everyone, let's talk about Sunrider because it's not too often that I have this unyielding desire to rant on about a game in this way. It's a strange feeling, and despite the many varied games that I've played on this channel, the only other one that gave me a feeling similar to what I've experienced playing Liberation Day would be Mafia 2. Let's try not to talk about that. Surprisingly enough, and this is my opinion, so don't let that get in your way. I don't think I'm quite this game's intended audience anyhow. I was thinking of talking about the gameplay and story segments separately, but it's thanks to their combination that gives me such an unsure feeling about the game. Sunrider goes the ever-popular route of being a visual novel to carry the story and a strategy game to carry the gameplay. Similar thing that you may observe in something like a Gadget Trial or Argarest. So in Mask of Arcadius, I found the visual novel segment engaging, right? There were plenty of chances to interact with other characters, plenty of meaningful choices to make, and most importantly for a game, it does a good job of setting the scene. Especially in the intro, which got me really excited to play it, even when I kept replaying it while I prepared to record it. It set up clear objectives, it gave me something to be interested in, introduced characters whose banter was actually kind of fun to listen to, that is despite the game almost purely relying on straight tropes, or at least so it seemed. So, it managed to remain interesting enough despite all that. I think that was mostly thanks to the choices that we had to make in the game. I weighed every decision carefully because I cared about the potential consequences, right? You can see that, for sure. I didn't feel so strongly about the strategy segment. It was partly my fault in the difficulty that I chose isn't really suited to me, because I kind of felt, it kind of made me feel impatient, but a lot more of it seems dependent on chance, regardless of the difficulty you pick. Oh well. Now, as for Liberation Day, for comparison, my thoughts on the two were swapped. I looked forward to the battles and really appreciated some of the changes it received, but it's the story that makes Liberation Day the most disappointing and frustrating visual novel I have ever played. Did I mention that I spent quite a few hours at night thinking of how I would word this? And I'm still not really sure if this is the right way to say it. But, alright, let me just get straight into it. I'm going to go straight ahead and point out the things that I think stuck out to me most. Now first, there's this scene where Kato is called towards Ava when she brings up her suspicions on Chigara. Now, this comes out of nowhere, because that is not at all how Kato had been treating Ava up to this point. Even the very first choice we made was how to act towards Ava, and we did not act like that at all. And even just earlier in Liberation Day, in fact, Ava and Kato shared a warm moment thanks to her amazing recovery, and my choice, which I still kind of feel bad about. It's like Kato suddenly became a different person because he's love-struck. Well, I guess anyone can be stupid when they're in love. Which brings me to my next point. Why Chigara? Like, what happened between Kato and Ava? Because Kato seemed pretty close to Ava already, so why start something between Kato and Chigara? I mean, we could even flirt with Claude. In fact, consider that all of the women on the ship seemed to like Kato for some reason. I even liked Chigara before this happened. My favourite of all of them even, but this romance between Chigara and Kato, note how I put Chigara first because she started it, it felt forced, right? Forced because the writer wanted to get the most drama out of the events in the story. It's a relationship that serves the plot. And that's actually quite a nice segue to my next paragraph here. Yeah. The story around the battle for Serra and onwards just felt like it was playing up just about every single thing that it could, just for the sake of doing so, and the story was trying to stretch in so many different directions that I just stopped caring. I cared more about the death of Admiral Grey than Chigara. As I said, the only other game that made me feel apathy like this was... It's like the story just wasn't content at ending with our objective being complete. I really did expect Kaito to die with the Sunrider in that one scene after everything else happened. It seemed like a very fitting ending for the game at the time. This would have allowed the other characters to carry on doing whatever they wanted to do too. While I know it's not a character-focused game, let alone even a game in the same genre, I kept thinking about the ending of Free Space 2 in comparison, where you can still win the game even if you die at the end. Well, maybe it's just me, but I thought it would have been interesting in the next Sunrider game. We would have been playing as Ava if Kaito had died. Alright, let's get to my last major point, and half of why Liberation Day is so disappointing. In the previous parts we had many choices, and we definitely had the chances to see the consequences of our actions. How many choices do we get in Liberation Day? 5, I believe, if my memory serves. One of those is the singular opportunity to use the Wish All, and 3 of those are at the end and are probably meaningless. The other one in the middle was at least neat because we were granted access to a new ship because of it, even if it didn't affect the story directly. I'm not saying that more choices would automatically make it a better game, but what I just played did not meet the expectations that the first game set. While we're talking about choices, I'm not entirely sure what Kaito is supposed to be. I suppose he's supposed to be... Wait, hold on. Anyway, he's the player character, but since we're given a weird selection of choices, I feel rather detached. I can see why on release this game had mixed reviews. But the amount of choices in the game is nothing compared to what the first one had. And that just adds to the forced feeling that this plot has. That we can't... We're just observing the story. Never have I played a game that made me dislike a cast of characters that I was previously okay with. Let me list some reasons why. Ava tries a little too hard in the beginning and not hard enough in the end. Seriously, she might have saved lives if she cared about security by the end. Asuka is freaking shallow and possessive and thinks she's entitled to Kaito for some reason. Is it because we saved her for Arcadius? Well, guess what? We also saved a bunch of civilians from Pact 2. Guess they're in love with us as well. Look, you're just like everyone else. Of course we'd save you, but that doesn't make you different. Chigara is too forward and doesn't interact with others enough. Namely Asuka, your friend. Also, why mess with security cameras when you just wanted to see the captain? It doesn't exactly make you seem wholesome. It can't be because she's shy, because she's being too forward. And Claude is a child that doesn't need my concern because she's a Q. Most other people, thankfully, didn't do much, and that's why I don't hate them. Imagine that. Oh, and the Wish All? I'm beginning to wonder why that exists. Since it's an item which allows us to effectively make a wish, and since it does work, because we could have used it for Cosette, why couldn't we use it to make parts of the ending never happen? The game has given us this miracle item, but won't let us use it where it would have mattered most. At that rate, I would have preferred that the designers came up with a less grandiose item, or just not given it to us at all. I'd like to conclude by saying that this game could have been a lot more interesting if the characters weren't acting on their emotions so much, and if we actually had a choice in the matters. The plot should not have been, let's have Kaito focus on Chigara even though the war's turning point is at hand. It should have been, let's deeply investigate our subordinates because we don't want to be caught in our moment of weakness at our victory. It would allow us to have the choices that I felt missing, as well as teach us a thing or two about the characters' backstories. Oh well, they're really all the serious gripes I had with the game. Now that I've got that off my chest, I'll be able to go on to the return story with a fresh mind, I hope. By the way, what's with the shower scenes? Like, the monologues or conversations people have in the shower could take place anywhere else. It's like we're perving on our friends. Ew.